Shall I start, Ashwini?
Yes, Rajat.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaste Sharada Devi Kashmirapurvasini Vidyadanam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Om Sadguru Devaya Namaha. Hariya.
All right. So let us review the assignment first. And
Dhavalji,
then,
Pratibha ji has joined. Hari Om Pratibha ji.
oh, Hari Om Pratibha ji. Welcome to our boot camp.
Hari Om, everybody.
And we are not able to hear Pratibha ji.
Hari Om, everybody.
Very low voice.
Okay.
All right. So let's go to the code here. Display header, title and nav links, nav bar, which is receiving nav links and rendering them, offerings title, and offering list. Offering key equal to and offering equal to this. Each offering is like this. Fact sheet, facts table, okay, FAQ, FAQ list, footer, social links. Okay, so I don't have much comments actually. This is very well done. The only comment I have here is that we don't need to use the word display everywhere, because the whole purpose of React is actually just displaying the UI and rendering the UI. So if we rather change the names to something like what it is rather than what it is doing, then it will make more intuitive sense. For example, rather than display header, I think I cannot edit this one, but rather than display header, I would say this is just a header or WizKids header or something like that. This is just offerings, just fact sheet, FAQ, and footer. Okay. And one more thing is that these kind of extractions is where we might want to be a bit more balanced. Like, we have just extracted out the header here, which is not going to help a lot because we are creating a level of separation and we'll have to go back and forth between two components just for something which is a simply single line render. So I would have ideally, placed h2 tag here itself directly.
Okay, Rajat.
Okay, but other than that, this is pretty much on the line. One more thing I would have done is, see, the way it is going to be very easy for all of us to reason about these kind of breakdowns is understand there are three levels of things. One is app, one is page, and one is widget or section on a page. Okay, so if we want to make this much more extensible, then I would have made this as a, rather than an app component, I would have made this as a WizKids site component. So app renders WizKids site, okay? Or WizKids site itself is the app. Okay, and then within that you have a home page component. Okay, and within that you have all these sections going on. So that way, this is much more extensible and scalable. If we want to introduce more pages here, then basically we are going to say WizKids site, home page, about page, contact page, all of them being component. And within all of them, we have like intro, offerings, and so on and so forth. Does this make sense?
Yes, Savage.
So 3 level of hierarchy. One is the app level of hierarchy. One is the page level of hierarchy. And one is the section level of hierarchy. Okay, even within section, it is possible for you to refine this to say offerings as a single offering component, but that's more for your convenience. Okay, rather than it being a required hierarchy. But 3 levels of hierarchy usually help a lot. And that can be used towards breaking down things into various levels. Okay. Now, what are the advantages of this breakdown? And you can also now say that, I can introduce router here. So slash is home page. Slash about is going to render about page. Slash contact is going to render the contact page, and so on and so forth. So I can introduce a router here, which will make our site, functional from a URL perspective. Okay, so this is not a part of the assignment, but I'm discussing that. If we divide things this way, then it becomes easy to, relate them to routes. Okay. What are the advantages of breaking things down this way? Can anybody say?
It's more modular and
It will be easy to understand
Yeah.
what is important thing. So important data will not be lost.
Yeah, modular, important data.
You talked about scalability, right? So you can introduce anything in between if I want to introduce something in the home page.
Anything else?
Something like that. Are you able-
Pratibha ji, your voice is very low.
Okay,
She was talking
now
about scalability.
it's more readable and probably improve upon that some if we need it.
What's the last part?
It's more readable and we can improve on that if we need it or edit it very easily.
Got it.
Scalability, she
So
was telling.
scalability. Okay. So that is one, just a minute. More importantly, it forces you to think of the structure even before you start implementation. That is one of the most important parts. Okay. And second is that once you have things broken down into small pieces, you can easily distribute work and estimate. Okay. Earlier, it's a big deal. Okay, entire page. We don't know how much of things need to be done. This way, if you have done the breakdown before implementation, then what can you do? Easily think of the structure even before the implementation starting. Okay. So you can see that in this kind of a component, what React people have advocated is that break the UI into a component hierarchy. Okay. Use the same programming principles that you would use while creating new objects or functions. One such one is single responsibility principle. So a component should ideally do only one thing. If they grow more, then further split them up. Okay. So see how they have defined the hierarchy here just from the mock. So this entire component is called filterable product table. Then the top portion is called search bar. Then here it is called, this one is called search input. If I were to go, a little bit more into details, this is the product table. Individual ones are product category rows like this, and these individual ones are called product rows. So you can split things down into the hierarchy visually even before you start the work. Okay, and determine their purpose and responsibility. See, route, component, responsibility. What is the responsibility of that component? So does this breakdown make sense to you? How
Yes.
you should break down your components?
Mm.
Okay, if we were to think about the same for our wireframe, let me see if it is there on the desktop. No, it's not there. Yeah, this wireframe. Okay. So how would we break it down even before starting the work?
Header, then introduction, offerings, then fact sheet, and
Effective.
footer, effective.
Okay.
Footer.
Yeah, and if required, individual elements within the sections. Okay, but this is how you will do a breakdown exercise. So we will do a breakdown exercise jointly. Okay, and another thing that it allows you to decide is where you would be storing the state. Okay, let's say this table is supposed to get a list of products from the server. Okay, so in this entire hierarchy, where is it that you would want to store the state? That it allows you to decide even before you start your work. Okay, here where you would want to store the state? Can you store the state within, say, product table, list of products state?
Understand.
Say it again, please.
I didn't understand, Davaji.
Where, once we get the list of products from server, inside which component I would want to store the state? Will it be product table?
Yes.
What is
Or
the
is it,
problem
or
if
is
I
it,
store the state in product table?
it will be visible only there.
Okay,
Do we want it outside? Mm,
what is the problem if I store the state here? List of products. If I store the state here, I cannot filter the products. Why? Because the top level component introduce something called search bar, include something called a search bar.
oh.
Okay. So filtering whatever, user is searching for, that information is here. Now, if this component does not know what are the list of products, it cannot easily filter. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Okay, so if I know the list of products here, and if I know what is the user searching by, then I can filter them and pass them along to the product table as props. Does that make sense?
Yes, Dhaval.
If I have the state here, then I can easily filter them here and pass that data along here with props. So this hierarchy breakdown also allows me to decide where will be what props and where will be what state. Like very much like our this thing wireframe, the state is shared across all the elements. So data is stored, shared across all the elements. So the top level component app or home page component has the state, and it is passing that as props to all the component. You already did that exercise without knowing that this is how you should do things. Clear? You are passing this along as props to all the components. Okay. And WizKid's data can be something that you can see. This is a problem. Okay. WizKid's data is a variable outside. Okay. I missed this part. And it's not used here as a state. What will be the problem now? If I update the value of this, it will not re-render. Okay, this needs to be used as a state. So this
Can you
needs to be,
explain once again, Dhavalji? I didn't get.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
I didn't understand.
yeah, if I don't have this variable WizKid's data here within app, then
Okay.
it's not state, right?
But it was like a global parameter, I thought.
Yeah, so global parameter it is there, but what will happen is that React will not react to the changes. Okay,
Only if
React
it is a prop or
either
it's a
prop or
state.
state, then and only then it reacts. Okay, so this kind of exercise will allow you to think about props and state properly, even before your implementation starts. Clear? If two components are supposed to share the state, that means what? The state needs to live in the top level component. If all these components need to share the state, that means it needs to live in the filterable product component.
So with respect to our WizKids, that framework, can you explain where, in which components the states are there?
Yeah. So the state should be here. Home page component has to have home page data. Okay. So what it will do is it will pass that along to all. This is the state. It needs to pass that along all the components as intro data, like this props. Okay. Home page data dot info data. Home page data dot offerings. If it is directly referenced from outside, first render will be fine. Okay. If it is not stored as a state, then what happens? First render is fine. But afterwards, if I say home page data dot offerings equal to a new value of offerings. Okay.
It will
If
not
I
be
make this
reflected.
change here, this will not re-render. Clear? React only renders based on prop and state changes. Okay, so if you have some value which is like, constant value, like gravity, okay, 9.8, that is okay to be used as a constant variable. Okay. Here I can refer to gravity from somewhere. But if I want some data which is changeable, and my React component should pre-render based on that changing data, then I need to have it as props or state. Clear?
Dhavalji, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Just for, because this is my first class, I just wanted to know, you
Hmm.
were talking about hierarchy, right?
Hmm.
That hierarchy, is it just almost or similar to OOPS concepts of C++ hierarchies?
It's similar and not similar. Okay, this
Just
hierarchy is more like
I have it.
visual hierarchy of things that make sense to you as a programmer.
Okay, I just wanted to know because I have that background. So does that, am I trying to understand through that so that it will be helpful for me? So that
Hmm.
that
See, these are functions. Okay, I
Yeah.
think if you refer to our this part,
before, okay,
C language is object oriented, JavaScript is functional. So
okay,
these are all small functions here.
yeah, okay,
Okay, to solve a bigger problem, we are
yeah,
using small functions like, add, square, factorial, is odd, Fibonacci, and Pascal triangle. So
okay,
React is like that. These are small functions which render the UI.
okay, got that.
Okay, based on some input data, they will render some UI.
Mm.
Okay, so thinking in React is like you breaking down things into proper hierarchy and identifying where will you store the state and how will you pass it along with props. Any questions here? If, for example, I load the data here individually in product category row, what happens? And set it as state, what happens?
Can you repeat the question, Dhavalji?
If I store the state of product data at this level, what happens?
Like you said, that search it will not have, right?
Yeah, search will not have, even the other one will not have that data. Okay, there are two categories here, fruits and vegetables. So if I just load it across one category, then I will not have that data in the other category. Okay, like this part, if I just load the entire data here in the offering section, what will happen? Other sections will not have access to that data. So it's pretty similar to our functions, right? If you load some data within a function, then that data will be limited to that function. Does that make sense? If there is some data that will be there within the factorial function, it will not be accessible to mathemagic function. Clear? So this exercise allows us to do that precisely. So even before we start the work, this exercise is very important. So I will now walk us through the front-end thinking process and collaboration process. See, this is very important. Okay, I have taken a lot of interviews for Amazon. Okay, and what I do is I give users give interview candidates a very open-ended question. Okay, for example, I will tell them, write a function that can reverse a string, like foo should be converted to oof. Okay, now what happens here? There is a lot of times candidates will not be perfect in terms of their knowledge. There is a lot of times they will not have up-to-date algorithmic knowledge. Okay, there will be a lot of times when they don't have up-to-date data structure knowledge. Okay, but we still can oversee that part, overlook that part, and hire them. Okay, we expect them to answer the question in a very specific way, and if they don't do that, then we don't hire them. Okay, what we expect them to do? We expect them to, first of all, understand the problem properly. Okay, I want to reverse a string. This is a very simple problem statement. Imagine it being a very complex statement. Okay, so understand the problem. If they get stuck somewhere in the understanding of the problem, they think out loud and discuss their concerns. Okay, so if I give you a function to implement, you understand the problem, understand what you need to do. If you are having problems understanding, discuss. Okay, if you think that you have understood the problem correctly, then also confirm your understanding. See, this is super secret things. Okay, this is how Amazon interviewers actually evaluate people. Okay, so if anybody of you make it into Amazon, I want some good
Yes, we will give you some
bonus.
good tip.
Okay, so confirm your understanding that, see, this is what you said you want me to implement, and I understand this problem in this way. Okay, this is my understanding of the problem. Do you think it is correct? Okay, do you think my understanding is, first of all, correct? Okay, and then say, for example, I as an interviewer will say, okay, you are correct, you got the problem right, you know what we are trying to solve. Okay, sometimes I will intentionally leave out a lot of details, and I want them to discuss that with me. Okay, I will not sometimes give a very simple problem statement like this. I will say, implement something like Uber on your own. That's a very broad problem statement. Okay, and I will intentionally not given a very specific instruction to them. What I want them to do, I want them to collaborate a lot around how they are understanding the problem. Once they understand the problem well and they finalize with me, then I want them to discuss the approach. Even before they go ahead and implement the solution, what I want them to do, discuss the approach. Okay, that this is how I am going to solve the problem. It may be a verbal one sentence thing, it may be a 5-sentence thing, it may be a small whiteboard writing, doesn't matter. But I want them to, based on the problem complexity, I want them to confirm the approach. Once they confirm the approach verbally, I want them to design the solution. What do you mean by design the solution? Something like this. Say, this is designing of a solution. This is not implementation of a solution. Do you see anywhere I've implemented add or square or factorial or is odd or Fibonacci or Pascal triangle?
No.
No. This is where I've just designed how my code will be solving the problem. A logical way, logical flow in which my code is going to solve the problem with different small parts. So this is called designing of the solution. Okay, if they understand that well, they collaborate on that. Okay, confirm with me that this design is looking good, then I will let them loose. Okay, go ahead and implement your solution. And lastly, once they are done with the implementation, what we do, we review the solution. What are the advantages of this approach? Can anybody tell me?
Designing their understanding and designing the beginning only before implementing, so that they're making sure that whatever they have understood is proper, the design is phase is correct, because later on all the data structures, everything, because rather than just jumping into the implementation.
Correct.
Oh.
If they end up solving the wrong problem in a wrong way or right problem in a wrong way, they are okay, and they are not working as a team. what we really want in people is to be able to work as a team in a very specific way. Okay, in very specific collaborative way, where even how they are understanding the problem is discussed before they go ahead and implement. The ones that end up getting rejected are the ones who directly implement the solution. Okay, not the ones who know most data structures and algorithms. Okay, somebody might be super sharp, but if they use their intelligence towards solving the problem, which is probably their faulty understanding, or they solve the problem in a wrong way, then it is of no use. Does that make sense?
Yes, Ramesh.
Okay, what is
Yes.
most important as a team is to be able to collaborate around the problem that we are trying to solve. Okay, and this is the process with which we do that. Okay, so let's say, for example, we say that one of you implement this page. Okay, how will the process look like? We will discuss what is the problem, and we'll confirm on whether you are understanding the problem correctly. Okay, then you can think about a solution, come back to me, and we'll discuss if the solution is right, your approach is right. Okay, not even the solution, your design and approach is right, your component breakdown is right. Okay, your state and prop selection is right, your URL selection is right. Okay, it's called system design. Okay, all these things are right. Once we finalize that, and you've seen this in action, right? When we discussed this a lot with Vijay ji, Shravan ji, when we were discussing student mate and teach mate APIs and route and all, you've seen that in practice, where we have spent a lot of time to finalize what we are trying to solve. Clear? Okay, that removes the risk from the process. Okay, and will align the team. Okay, once you get more and more confident on your work, a lot of this will be hands off the wheel, where I can trust you to review work of your juniors. Okay, that is how it will proceed. Clear? Initially, we will ensure that couple of cycles we will do this process until I am very sure of your understanding of things and how all you are working. And then we will start automating this, and probably whoever comes next in the team, or if somebody needs help, then you are the one who can review that. Does that make sense?
Yes, Ramesh.
Okay. And this is also very much important from another perspective. Okay, if you see, front-end world is entirely driven by open source. Okay, that's why Bolt and also are so powerful with respect to UI. Lot of like millions of problems are actually solved. Okay, in UI. Okay, if I say filterable table, see, there are lots of solutions for a filterable table. Okay, thousands of solutions for that. Okay, if I say a learning management system, you will see that there are SDKs around that as well. Okay, if I say that OAuth, see, there are OAuth libraries and SDKs that you can directly use. Okay, Markdown, for example, whatever Markdown work I have done in our student meet, you can see that there are Markdown parsers here as well. So most of the time, our work will be actually selecting the right things to be used for solving a problem based on certain criteria, rather than solving the problem on our own. Clear? Do you think Maruti manufactures each and everything of their car?
No.
What they do?
Maybe they get the components from different places.
Correct. They get the
In
component
assembly.
from different places. Okay. And they just put it together. Some important things, they will keep it to themselves. They will do quality check and all. But at the end of the day, they cannot just go in and develop each and every aspect of a car. It will be very, inefficient way of developing a car. There will be people who will be experts in glass related work and engine related work and paint related work. So they will outsource a lot of those things. So in the same way, when we put together front end applications, a lot of it is actually, towards knowing what to use rather than doing it ourselves. Clear? Okay. So if we do this exercise, then we know that we are going to solve a problem using this particular approach. Use this library, use this thing, and solve the problem rather than solving it ourselves all the time. You will still not be implementing a lot of things by hand, rather using Bolt. But sometimes, we get stuck. We can tell Bolt to do a certain things, which otherwise we don't know what to do. Okay, for example, when I was implementing this latex, Bolt hallucinated. It invented a package which did not exist in npm repository, and it was trying to use that, and it was not just there. Okay, then I had to go to npm myself and verify a lot of details, and I had to tell Bolt specifically towards using some other thing in a specific way. Then it got it correct. Clear? So all these things will not be at the end of the day initially your responsibility. It needs to be teamwork. Okay, if you get stuck somewhere, you come and discuss, we finalize on the approach, we finalize on the design, and then you implement. If you get stuck in the implementation, again come back, again do the same process. Okay, and even after your work is done, we review the code, and I will be implementing all these things, a lot of these things in an automated way. For example, reviewing will be automatic. We will be structuring our GitHub in a way where we cannot merge code without reviewing. Clear? At the end of the day, we need to have very clear mental model of the application and how it is structured. Why?
So that we can tell Bolt or ChatGPT, we can tell it and get it done properly.
And when things go wrong,
you can catch it easily.
Yeah, you can solve the problem. Otherwise, you have no clue of what Bolt has done. Okay. Actually, production quality applications are less about coding and more about writing code in a way that you can debug. Okay. Maintenance is more important than just developing something. Okay. Imagine a car that can be very good, but once you buy it and if something goes wrong, you have no clue of how to solve the problem. Okay. That's not how it works. Clear? Any questions? All right, so we will begin our process now. I'll probably do this front-end process presentation once more while we begin our work, but we will be now focusing on beginning the actual work. I'll give some pieces from our student mate or teach mate, and we'll start working on that. All right. Let's see. Okay, we can close for today if there are no other questions.
No questions, Dhaval.
Okay, let's go ahead. We can say the closing prayers, please.
Sato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirghamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you. Thank you, Dhavalji.
Thank you all. Hari Om. This